So imagine a woman, right? She fits perfectly into like the medical ideal for height and weight. She works out, she eats a perfectly balanced diet, she wears the clothes you see on
Right,
mannequins.
the statistical ideal.
Exactly. She is by every statistical and societal standard, the physical ideal. Yet, statistically speaking, there is an 86% chance she secretly, um, deeply dislikes her body.
Which is just a wild number to really think about.
It's crazy. And it brings up the question we're tackling today, which is how well do you actually know the person staring back at you in the mirror?
Yeah.
And I don't mean, the superficial passing glance you give yourself while you're brushing your teeth or rushing to get out the door.
Right, the quick check to make sure you don't have toothpaste on your shirt.
Exactly. I mean, if you were to stand there, really look at your physical form and rate your level of self-acceptance, the genuine, unfiltered respect and love you hold for the body you currently inhabit, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you land?
That is a tough question.
With 10 being absolute radiant awe and 1 being utter misery.
It is, it's an incredibly uncomfortable metric for most people to even try to measure. If we look closely at the psychology of self-perception, for a staggering majority of the population, the number that flashes into their minds is heartbreakingly low.
Yeah, it really is.
And it is almost always accompanied by a physical reaction, like a wince or a sigh or a slumping of the shoulders.
An immediate mental inventory of like perceived flaws.
Exactly. Flaws they desperately wish they could just surgically remove.
And that discomfort, that immediate drop in your stomach when forced to assess your physical self, that's the core of what we are unpacking in today's deep dive.
Yes.
Because we are living through what our source material describes as a silent universal struggle. It's a full-blown body shape epidemic.
A literal epidemic.
But what is so alarming is that this isn't merely a matter of physical health, right? It's not about cardiovascular fitness or body mass index.
Mhm.
It is a profound psychological and, well, energetic disconnection from our physical forms.
Which points directly to why modern solutions often feel incredibly hollow or why they just fail entirely long term.
Right.
We are constantly sold these clinical, highly forceful, physical solutions to what is essentially an emotional and energetic wound.
Yeah. Go to the gym, punish yourself.
Right. The fitness and beauty industries tell us to punish ourselves with heavy weights or go to a clinic and have ourselves surgically altered. The scalpel and the barbell are presented as like the absolute pinnacle of bodily transformation.
But the curriculum we are looking at today throws those tools completely out the window.
It really does.
We are examining this fascinating body of work compiled by Trudy Baker from the Wishenwell Academy, and the paradigm is known as quantum body sculpting, or QBSC.
Which is such an intriguing title.
It is. The entire premise is subtitled Beyond the Scalpel, and it weaves together ancient healing traditions with modern biophysics and parapsychology to suggest something that sounds honestly radical to the modern ear.
Yeah, that the ultimate tool for physical body transformation isn't a blade.
Exactly. It's not a blade, it's the focused intention of the human heart.
And I think it's important to note right up front that the Wishing Well Academy presents an intermodal ecosystem.
Right. What does that mean exactly in this context?
Well, it means it completely avoids the trap of relying on a single, isolated trick. It pulls from energetic practices like quantum touch, the shamanic Earth-Star-Heart connection, and maps them directly onto modern scientific principles.
Like the ones found in Lynn McTaggart's work, The Intention Experiment.
Yes, exactly. So our objective today is to explore the exact biological and energetic mechanisms behind this. We're going to look at how focused intention, guided by a specific emotional state, might literally reshape physical tissue.
Which is mind-blowing. But to understand the cure, we first have to fully understand the disease, right?
Absolutely.
The body dissatisfaction epidemic statistics provided in the QBSC survey data stopped me dead in my tracks.
They are stark.
We all casually acknowledge that people struggle with body image, but these numbers reveal a massive glitch in our collective operating system. 90% of women, ages 18 to 65, feel depressed about the shape of their bodies.
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10 women, that's almost everyone.
And we really need to analyze how that dissatisfaction is distributed across different demographics because that is where the true nature of this psychological epidemic is exposed.
Right, it's not just who you think it is.
Exactly. Body dissatisfaction is a universal constant. It is completely decoupled from the physical reality of the body itself.
Yeah, because a logical person might assume, well, society is incredibly biased against heavier individuals, so naturally they will report higher levels of unhappiness.
which makes sense on the surface.
And the data does confirm that 95% of overweight women are unhappy with their size and shape. But as we mentioned at the top of the show, 86% of women who fall perfectly into the medical normal body weight and height chart are also unhappy.
Which just shatters the whole argument right there.
And even more bizarrely, 61% of women who are clinically underweight are also unhappy with their shape.
That data set completely shatters the foundational myth of the cosmetic industry.
Right.
The illusion that achieving a specific physical metric equates to internal self-acceptance. Because if altering the physical dimensions of the body cured the dissatisfaction, then those in the normal category would report a near-zero rate of unhappiness.
Right, they'd be perfectly happy because they hit the goal.
Exactly. But instead, we see an 86% dissatisfaction rate.
So if even the people who fit the blueprint are miserable, that seems like absolute proof that the external fix, whether it's extreme caloric restriction or cosmetic surgery, is just treating the wrong symptom entirely.
It absolutely is.
The data shows over 67% of women would choose surgery to change their appearance, and 80% believe their lives would inherently improve if they just had a different shape.
We're essentially operating under the delusion that fixing the hardware will somehow cure a virus in the software.
I love that analogy. Let's expand on that hardware-software paradigm because it perfectly encapsulates the QBSC philosophy, doesn't it?
It really does. Traditional body modification operates with this mechanical coldness. It treats the human body as an inert piece of marble to be chiseled away at.
Just hacking away the parts you don't want.
Exactly. It completely ignores the internal biological ecosystem that grew and maintained the current shape in the first place.
Right.
When you operate purely on the fascial and adipose tissue layers, which is the hardware, you are doing absolutely nothing to rewrite the neural and energetic coding, the software.
And that software dictates how the body distributes resources, holds tension, and stores trauma.
Yes. According to the text, the corrupted software consists of our internal tapes.
Okay, internal tapes. What exactly is the nature of those?
In the QBSC framework, these tapes are the long-held, non-beneficial thoughts, subconscious traumas, and emotional imprints. But they aren't just floating abstractly in your mind.
Where are they?
They are stored directly within your physical tissues.
Well,
Yeah, neurology and fascia research now show us that emotional trauma creates literal, measurable tension patterns in the body.
so it's a physical reality, not just a feeling.
Exactly. So if you surgically alter the body, say, by removing fat from the belly, without rewriting the internal tapes that cause the body to defensively store fat there in the first place.
The underlying energetic blueprint remains broken.
Yes, and the body will simply rebuild the dysfunction. Quantum body sculpting aims to rewrite the shape from that foundational blueprint level.
No, I want to push back on the terminology here for a second because quantum is a word that gets hijacked constantly in the wellness space.
Oh, absolutely. It's everywhere.
People slap quantum on a smoothie recipe to make it sound advanced. It often feels like a pseudoscientific buzzword for magic. So if we are talking about physical tissue, how does the text justify using quantum mechanics?
It's a completely valid skepticism, but the curriculum is careful to define its terms outside of mystical jargon.
Okay, how do they define it?
In this context, quantum refers to interacting with the body at its absolute deepest foundational level, the subatomic energetic frequency level, which actually dictates how physical cells organize themselves.
Right, before it's even a cell.
Exactly. Before a cell becomes a tissue, before a tissue becomes an organ, it is organized by bioelectric and biochemical signals. QBSC operates at the level of those signals.
And then sculpting.
Sculpting is defined as the art of giving shape to the whole by altering that underlying signal.
So we aren't just aggressively hacking off a piece we don't like, we are changing the broadcast signal so the entire entity reshapes itself.
Precisely.
And this brings us to a massive, fundamental shift in how we are taught to approach our bodies. The shift from yang energy to yin energy.
The distinction between yang and yin is the absolute pivot point of this entire philosophy.
Let's get into that because it's so different from the norm.
It is. The traditional fitness and cosmetic surgery world is overwhelmingly, almost exclusively, yang.
Right, very intense.
Yes, yang energy is masculine, forceful, and aggressive. It relies on external pressure, heat, friction, and essentially dominating your own anatomy to force it into submission.
Think of the cultural messaging we are bombarded with, like no pain, no gain.
Crush your workout.
Right, or the literal violent trauma a human body undergoes during liposuction. We are deeply conditioned to believe that physical change requires intense suffering.
We really are. If we aren't exhausted, bleeding, starving, or incredibly sore the next day, we think we failed.
It reminds me of a Chinese finger trap.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Right, because the yang approach to a finger trap is panicking and pulling your fingers apart as hard as you can, and the harder you pull, the tighter the woven bamboo grips your skin.
Yes.
You are fighting the structure with brute force, and you are losing.
That analogy maps so perfectly onto the physiology of the human fascial system.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, fascia is the web of connective tissue that encases every single muscle, bone, and organ. When you apply aggressive yang, force heavy lifting, emotional stress, or surgical trauma, the nervous system triggers a sympathetic response.
The fight or flight response.
Exactly. It floods the body with cortisol, and the fascia physically hardens and grips tighter to protect the underlying structures. The harder you pull, the more rigid the tissue becomes.
Just like the finger trap. So the yin approach, which is the only way to actually get free from the finger trap, is to do the exact counterintuitive opposite.
You relax.
You push your fingers inward, you lean into the trap, releasing the tension on the fibers, and then you just slip right out.
Yes. Yin is quiet, receptive, and allowing.
So the QBSC curriculum asks you to adopt a beginner state of mind. Instead of fighting your anatomy, you communicate with it to release the grip.
By shifting into yin, you move the nervous system from a sympathetic fight or flight state into a parasympathetic rest and digest state.
You basically stop fighting the fascia.
Exactly. By bringing the body into energetic balance, QBSC claims that we allow the original natural blueprint of proportion to reemerge.
I think it is vital to note here that QBSC isn't about building a brand new body out of thin air.
No, not at all.
It is about allowing the original memory of your optimal shape to resonate within your cells once again.
Yes, and I find that concept incredibly relieving.
Me too. The idea that my body already inherently knows what its optimal balanced shape is, but the stress, the trauma, the internal tapes have essentially piled biojunk and fascial tension over that blueprint.
That's exactly it.
But we have to address the mechanism here. We can't just sit on the living room floor, do nothing, and say, okay, blueprint, go ahead and reshape my thighs.
Right, that won't work.
What is the invisible force that actually allows this natural blueprint to physically manifest in the tissue?
The mechanism, the core fuel driving this physical change, is identified in the text as life force energy.
Life force energy, okay.
Now, conventional Western medicine historically dismisses this because it doesn't show up neatly on an X-ray. But if we look at the history of global medicine, this energy is the most universally recognized biological phenomenon in human history.
Yeah, the text lists a fascinating array of cultural names for this exact same force.
It does.
Traditional Chinese medicine maps it as qi flowing through meridians. The Japanese call it ki. In the Hindu Ayurvedic tradition, it is prana.
And the ancient Greeks refer to it as pneuma.
The Egyptians called it ko. Even Hippocrates, who we consider the father of modern medicine, based his early practice on what he called the healing power of nature.
It is impossible to ignore that completely disconnected ancient civilizations all identified the exact same invisible bioelectric current running through the human nervous system.
It really is wild when you lay it all out like that. But we don't have to rely solely on ancient philosophy, right?
No, we don't. The QBSC curriculum points to modern scientific and parapsychological frameworks that attempt to quantify this force. In homeopathy, it is sometimes referred to as bioplasm. But the most compelling modern equivalent mentioned is biologist Rupert Sheldrake's theory of morphogenetic fields.
Oh, I definitely need us to go deep on morphogenetic fields. That sounds like a concept straight out of a science fiction novel.
It really does.
What exactly is Rupert Sheldrake proposing?
Well, Rupert Sheldrake is a biochemist who proposed the concept of morphic resonance. He argues that there are invisible organizing fields that govern the shape, physical development, and behavioral patterns of all living things.
Okay, so like a master blueprint.
Right. Western biology struggles to explain exactly how a cluster of identical embryonic stem cells knows precisely how to fold and differentiate into, say, a complex organ like a liver instead of a lung.
Because the DNA provides the protein codes, but not the spatial blueprint.
Exactly. What provides the 3D map? Sheldrake theorizes that there is an energetic template, a morphogenetic field, that the physical matter tunes into.
Much like a television tuning into a broadcast frequency. So it's a non-local field of information, like how a flock of thousands of starlings knows how to turn in perfect unison without bumping into each other, or how a colony of ants builds a complex architectural structure without a central blueprint.
Exactly. They're tuning into the collective field. Sheldrake points to chemical crystallization as an example, which is really fascinating.
Oh, how does that work?
When chemists synthesize a brand new chemical compound for the very first time, it might take weeks or even months to get it to crystallize because the form has literally never existed before in nature.
Right.
But the second time they try it, even in a different lab completely across the world, it crystallizes faster. And by the 100th time, it happens almost instantly.
Wait, really? Across the world?
Yes. Sheldrake argues the first crystallization created a morphic field, a habit of nature, that subsequent molecules tune into.
That is incredible. And QBSC posits that human anatomy works the exact same way.
It does. Your optimal physical blueprint exists as a morphic field. We can consciously interact with our own morphogenetic field using life force energy to guide our physical tissues back into that optimal arrangement.
But the text makes a massive radical leap right here.
It does make a leap.
It claims that in all languages, across all these ancient traditions and modern theories, this life force energy ultimately translates to one single word, which is love.
Yes, and this is usually the exact moment where the scientifically minded listener completely checks out.
Count me among them. If I am looking at a purely mechanical problem, let's say poor posture, a bouncing belly, or sagging tissue, it sounds incredibly woo-woo to say that love is going to tighten my fascia.
It sounds like a Hallmark card.
Right. How does a sentiment you write on a Valentine's Day card translate into a biological force that can alter a morphogenetic field and actually sculpt physical tissue? We really need the science here.
Okay, to understand this, we must completely divorce the word love from romantic poetry. We have to redefine it as a specific, measurable physiological state. Think of it through the lens of radical biological self-care and biochemistry.
Okay, I'm following.
It is not about thinking happy thoughts while staring in the mirror. It is about actively altering the biochemical environment in which your cellular division is taking place.
Walk me through the exact biochemical shift. How does the environment actually change?
Well, when a human body is steeped in a state of self-loathing, chronic anxiety, or intense yang force, the amygdala detects a threat.
The brain's alarm system.
Right. The nervous system is instantly flooded with cortisol and epinephrine. Blood is shunted away from the digestive organs and skin, and it's pushed into the skeletal muscles for fight or flight.
So you're ready to run from a tiger.
Exactly. The fascia tightly constricts, creating adhesions. Cellular hydration drops. In this state, tissue literally cannot heal or remodel. It can only survive.
It's locked in a defensive posture.
But when you intentionally apply the frequency of deep compassion, gratitude, or love toward your own body, you stimulate the vagus nerve.
Oh, the vagus nerve. That's a huge topic right now.
It is. The Heart Math Institute has conducted extensive research on this, showing that generating feelings of care and love creates what they call heart coherence.
Heart coherence.
Yes, it's a state where the heart rhythm becomes highly ordered. This coherence shifts the autonomic nervous system into parasympathetic dominance. Your brain releases a cascade of oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone.
And what does oxytocin do physically?
It literally lowers blood pressure and reduces inflammation. The fascial tissues physically soften and hydrate. Lymphatic drainage opens up.
Wow.
So by introducing the frequency of love, you are providing the exact physiological environment required for tissues to realign, flush out stagnant fluid, and remodel themselves.
That is amazing.
Love isn't just an emotion,
Huh.
It is the ultimate physiological state of zero resistance.
That connects the dots beautifully. Love is the biological environment of yin. We now understand the fuel, which is this state of zero resistance and vagal nerve activation. But how do we drive the car? The text provides a very precise toolkit for preparing the body for this deep reshaping. It relies on 3 pillars: intention, breath, and what they call the art of allowing.
Let's examine intention first, because if life force energy is the fuel, intention is the steering wheel.
I like that.
The curriculum leans heavily on Lynn McTaggart's work, The Intention Experiment.
Right. And McTaggart isn't a mystic. She's a science journalist.
Yes, she spent years compiling peer-reviewed data from places like Princeton and Stanford, demonstrating that human thought is a highly ordered energy capable of affecting physical matter.
She looked at things like the double slit experiment in quantum physics, right? Where the mere presence of an observer changes how a photon behaves, acting as either a wave or a particle.
Yes, but she took it further into biology.
How so?
Her aggregated research includes experiments where focused human intention was directed at plant seeds, and it significantly altered their rate of germination compared to control groups.
Just by thinking about them.
Basically, yes. She also looked at experiments where healers directed intention at water. And using spectrophotometers, scientists were able to measure actual changes in the molecular bonding angles of the hydrogen and oxygen atoms in the water.
That is wild. And if human intention can literally alter the molecular structure of water in a lab, and the human body is roughly 70% water.
Then the idea of using intention to sculpt our own hydrated tissues becomes a matter of biophysics, not magic.
Right. But the text warns that intention only works under specific parameters.
It does. The intention must be remarkably clear, and it must be coupled with a coherent emotional state.
Meaning?
You have to visualize a positive, specific outcome while holding a pure emotional space. You cannot desperately wish for your thighs to shrink while simultaneously harboring intense hatred for your thighs.
Because the contradictory bioelectric frequencies cancel each other out?
Exactly. If your intention is driven by disgust, you trigger cortisol, and you are immediately thrown back into a yang state of fascial restriction. The intention must be rooted in healing, ease, and compassion.
Okay, so once that clear, coherent intention is locked in your mind, the physical bridge to deliver it to the body is the breath.
Yes.
The QBSC text details a practice called meditative breathing. This isn't just breathing deeply, though. It focuses heavily on altering the rhythm.
Right.
You enjoy the inhale, but you intentionally prolong the exhale. The exhale must be controlled, incredibly slow and relaxed.
And there's a biological reason for that. That prolonged exhale is a direct mechanical trigger for the vagus nerve.
Okay.
When the exhale is longer than the inhale, it acts as a braking system for the heart rate, immediately down-regulating the sympathetic nervous system.
So it forces you into yin.
Yes, and the QBSC manual specifically notes that this style of breathing prepares the body for profound reshaping by opening what are known as the 5 diaphragms.
Now, this part fascinated me. I think most of us only know about one diaphragm, the respiratory diaphragm sitting right under the lungs. Where are the other 4, and why do they matter for body sculpting?
In osteopathic and holistic anatomy, the body is viewed as a pressurized cylinder containing multiple horizontal diaphragms. They act as transit hubs for blood, lymph, and cerebrospinal fluid.
Okay.
So while the respiratory diaphragm is the primary engine, there are 4 others. At the very bottom, you have the pelvic floor.
Makes sense.
Moving up, there is the thoracic inlet at the collarbones. In the throat, you have the vocal or cervical diaphragm. And at the very top, the cranial diaphragm, which involves the specialized connective tissue inside the skull.
So they're stacked horizontally all the way up the core?
Yes. And when we experience chronic stress or harbor non-beneficial thoughts, these horizontal planes subconsciously clench.
Oh, I can totally feel that.
The pelvic floor tightens, the breath becomes shallow at the respiratory diaphragm, the shoulders hike up, compressing the thoracic inlet, the throat constricts, and tension headaches manifest at the cranial level.
Wow.
This global clenching basically blocks the flow of lymphatic fluid and life force energy. So the prolonged exhale of meditative breathing physically melts the tension in all 5 of these horizontal planes.
Unblocking the cylinder.
Exactly, allowing fluid and energy to flow seamlessly from the crown of the head to the base of the spine.
The body is physically unlocked, the fluid dynamics are restored, the intention is clear, and now we arrive at the 3rd pillar, which might be the most maddening concept for a goal-oriented person to accept.
Oh, definitely.
The art of allowing. The manual instructs you to hold a clear, powerful desire for a well-proportioned body, but you must remain entirely unattached to the outcome.
That sounds like a total contradiction, doesn't it?
It really does. How do you dedicate time and energy to a physical transformation practice, but force yourself not to care if it actually works?
It's tricky.
It reminds me of the psychological torture of trying to fall asleep when you have an early flight the next morning.
Oh, the worst.
That is the ultimate test of the art of allowing. If you are lying in bed, rigidly staring at the ceiling, thinking, I have to be asleep right now. I have 4 hours left. Why aren't I sleeping?
That is peak yang energy right there.
Exactly. The harder you try to force sleep, the more your brain produces beta waves, the frequency of anxiety and alertness. You literally cannot force sleep to happen.
No, you can't.
All you can do is create the perfect environmental conditions, a dark room, a cool temperature, a relaxed breath, and then surrender. You have to allow sleep to take you.
That is an excellent way to frame it neurologically. Because when you obsess over the outcome, like, did it work? Am I thinner yet? Why is my belly still bouncing?
Yeah.
You are generating high-frequency beta brainwaves.
You are living in a state of lack and anxiety.
Yes, which triggers the cortisol response and tightens the 5 diaphragms all over again. Attachment to the outcome, creates literal biological resistance.
But by removing that resistance, by truly embracing the art of allowing, you shift into alpha or theta brainwave states. You unlock the core tension.
Your physical form begins to feel lighter and more harmonious simply because your tissues are no longer engaged in a biochemical war with your own mind.
So, with the body fully prepped, the diaphragm's open, the nervous system and parasympathetic yin, the mind unattached, we finally move to the actual mechanism of sculpting.
Right, the actual doing part.
The text outlines a core philosophy that radically reclaims bodily autonomy. All sculpting is self-sculpting.
I love that phrase.
Me too. It completely subverts the modern medical model where you are just this, passive lump of clay waiting for an expert, a surgeon, a personal trainer, a diet guru to mold you.
Right, you are the sculptor.
You are using your own hands, your own focused mind, and your own bioelectric energy.
And the primary physical practice used to achieve this is called Quantum Touch 2, or QT2. It is an evolution of traditional energy work.
How does it differ?
Well, instead of focusing energy in the hands right away,
Mm-hmm.
QT2 places the practitioner's awareness entirely into the heart center to cultivate that specific resonance of love and coherence we discussed earlier.
And the practice utilizes something called the sweeps.
Yeah.
You don't just passively think about your chest, you use your mind to actively move your awareness and internal energy through the heart in very specific geographic directions. The manual outlines this really clearly.
Right, you sweep your internal awareness from the bottom of the heart to the top, then from the back of the heart to the front, and finally from the front of the heart to the back.
What does that actually do?
Think of it like priming a pump or winding the coil of an electromagnet. In neurobiology, there is a concept called interoception.
Which is the brain's ability to perceive sensations inside the body.
Exactly. And where you place your focused attention, the brain increases localized blood flow and neural density. So by actively sweeping awareness through the heart space, you are engorging that area with vascular and bioelectric activity.
You are building a concentrated reservoir of coherent life force energy.
Precisely.
But before you can take that immense reservoir of energy and direct it toward a physical problem area, you must be grounded.
Oh, grounding is essential.
Right, because if you try to fire a cannon from a canoe, you're going to flip the boat.
That's a great image.
Which brings us to the crucial technique of sacral anchoring.
Sacral anchoring is the biomechanical and energetic stabilization protocol. The sacrum is the large triangular bone at the absolute base of the spine. It's essentially the keystone of the human pelvis.
Okay.
The visualization technique requires you to imagine your sacrum is solidly glued or anchored directly into the earth. From that anchored point, you sense energy flowing in two opposing directions simultaneously.
Down deep into the ground and up through the core of your body, out the crown of your head.
Exactly.
It creates a vertical axis of tension. I picture it like the engineering of a massive suspension bridge.
Oh, tell me more.
You can't just string up the cables and expect them to hold weight. You have to anchor the massive concrete pylons deeply into the bedrock on either side. Only when those anchors are perfectly stable can the bridge gracefully support the dynamic movement of thousands of cars.
That's spot on.
If you try to shift the physical structure of your bodily tissues without a perfectly stable, energetic, and biomechanical foundation, the system becomes distorted.
The suspension bridge is a great mechanical equivalent. Neurologically, feeling grounded through the sacrum signals the lower autonomic nervous system that you are safe and supported.
You're not floating away.
Right. Once you are safely anchored and your heart energy is amplified through the sweeps, you use your own hands to direct that frequency to specific areas of the body.
And the theory is that directing this coherent, loving energy to localized tissues releases the trapped emotional imprints, the non-beneficial thoughts.
Allowing the tissues to tone, lift, and return to their morphogenetic blueprint of proportion.
Let's see how this theory translates to the living room floor, because the manual gives precise protocols for targeting specific areas that cause immense psychological distress.
Let's look at the protocols.
Let's start with an area almost everyone struggles with, the bouncing belly.
The belly is a profound biological and emotional center. It houses the enteric nervous system, which is often called the second brain, and it produces massive amounts of our serotonin.
Wow, I didn't know it produced serotonin.
It does. And the QBSC text wisely notes that a bouncing belly isn't solely caused by simple adipose fat deposits. It points to poor digestion, visceral inflammation, and fluid retention as major factors.
Which links right back to stress and yang energy. If we are chronically stressed, our digestion halts, we retain water, and the visceral fat receptors specifically grab onto cortisol, expanding the belly to protect the organs.
Exactly. So how do we correct it?
The quantum sculpting protocol involves placing your open hands directly on the bare skin of the belly.
Bare skin is important.
You set a pure, unattached intention to heal and bring ease to the area. And then you employ a technique called timeline therapy.
Timeline therapy is a fascinating application of neuroplasticity and state-dependent memory.
How does it work?
The instruction is to mentally travel back along your personal timeline to a specific age or moment when that area of your body, your belly, was at its optimal healthy size and shape.
Right.
You vividly connect with the memory of that natural blueprint.
But how does thinking about the past physically change the belly in the present?
Well, the human brain does not easily distinguish between a vividly imagined event and current reality.
Right, like if you picture a lemon, your mouth water.
Exactly. When you deeply recall a state of optimal health, you fire the specific neural pathways associated with that biological state. Your brain begins to release the neuropeptides, hormones, and cellular signals that were present at that younger, healthier time in your life.
So you were essentially tricking the nervous system into recalling its optimal epigenetic markers?
Yes. You hold your hands there, visualizing this past blueprint, and you run energy from your amplified heart space for 5 minutes.
You are flooding the restricted, inflamed visceral tissues with the frequency of ease, lowering the localized cortisol, and allowing the lymphatic fluid to finally drain. The manual also provides a specific protocol for another highly charged area for women sagging, or double breasts.
It points out that the causes here aren't just weight fluctuations or gravity. It lists poor-fitting bras, which makes structural sense, but it also heavily emphasizes chronic stress and lack of sleep.
Chronic exhaustion drains the body's life force, leading to a literal physical drooping or loss of tone in the structural tissues.
Right.
So the correction protocol involves placing your open hands under the armpits. You set the intention to firm and tone, you utilize timeline therapy to recall the optimal structural shape, and you run the heart energy for 5 minutes.
Now, I have to be the voice of the skeptic here again.
Please do.
I can hear the listener rolling their eyes. Can simply holding your open hands under your armpits for 5 minutes actually cure sagging breasts? We're talking about defying gravity and cellular aging with a thought and a hand placement.
It is entirely fair to be skeptical, especially if we are stubbornly viewing the body through a mechanical yang lens.
Right. If we expect an instant dramatic cosmetic lifting, like a surgical tuck that mechanically removes skin, then we misunderstand the process completely. QBSC is not a magic trick.
Okay, so what is happening biologically?
If we look at the anatomy of the axillary region, armpits, the science becomes very clear.
Explain the anatomy of the armpit in relation to breast sagging.
The axillary region is the grand central station for the lymphatic drainage of the chest. It also houses the major fascial intersections connecting the pectoral muscles, the back, and the arms.
Okay.
This includes the suspensory ligaments of Cooper, which actually maintain the structural integrity of the breast. When a person is chronically stressed, the physical manifestation is a slumping forward.
You hunch over.
Right. The shoulders round, the chest collapses inward in a defensive posture. This chronic, lifelong slumping physically shortens and tightens the pectoral fascia, restricting blood flow and lymphatic drainage to the breast tissue, causing it to weaken and sag.
So the sagging isn't just gravity, it's a structural collapse caused by tension.
Yes. When you place your warm hands under the armpits, you are stimulating the mechanoreceptors in the skin and the axillary lymph nodes.
Wow.
By running coherent heart energy, you are initiating a profound fascial unwinding. You are releasing the chronic grip of stress that pulls the shoulders forward.
And as the pectoral fascia relaxes and lengthens, the shoulders naturally pull back.
The chest opens, and the structural integrity is restored. The lymphatic fluid drains, reducing heaviness. The body's natural proportions are allowed to reemerge over time.
It is a deeply restorative biological process of unwinding tension from the inside out rather than a quick cosmetic amputation of tissue.
Exactly.
That reframes it completely from woo-woo magic to structural and energetic rehabilitation. It's about healing the localized environment so the body stops holding on to the dysfunction.
And what is so compelling about this curriculum is that this unique, heart-led approach doesn't exist in a vacuum. It is situated within a much broader, highly curated ecosystem of healing at the Wishing Well Academy.
The Academy operates under the tagline, where science meets subtle energy.
Trudy Baker, the founder, curated these methods with a clear, service-oriented ethos, sharing time and talents for the highest good to promote natural self-healing.
A major highlight of the source material is their intermodal approach. They explicitly state, "We do not favor any modality over another. We have experienced the ease and seamlessness with which several healing modalities integrate and promote self-healing."
That intermodal philosophy is critical because human beings are infinitely complex.
We really are.
A single therapeutic tool is rarely sufficient to address the myriad interwoven ways we store trauma, fascial tension, and non-beneficial thoughts.
It's like looking at the academy as a highly advanced energetic tool belt.
Exactly.
If you were building a custom home, you wouldn't stubbornly use a hammer for every single job. Sometimes you need a hammer, but for the plumbing, you need a wrench, and for the electrical, you need wire strippers.
Perfect analogy.
If someone comes to the academy with profound, paralyzing body dissatisfaction, quantum body sculpting might be the primary architectural blueprint, but the academy offers a whole suite of complementary tools to address specific roadblocks.
Let's examine some of the specific modalities listed in their ecosystem to see how they interlock. Alongside QBSC, they offer the zero-point energy amplifier, deep reset hypnosis, the quantum facelift, Reiki, the emotion code, Bowen therapy, and Psych K.
That is a dense and comprehensive list. Let's break down how a few of those specifically assist the body sculpting process. Start with Psych K because that sounds intense.
Psych K is a psychological tool designed to rewrite subconscious beliefs.
Okay, how does that help?
Well, if a client's body dissatisfaction is deeply rooted in a subconscious childhood trauma, perhaps they were constantly criticized for their weight at a young age, that belief is hardwired into their neural pathways. QBSC alone might hit a roadblock because the subconscious mind will constantly fight the new intention. Psych-K uses whole brain integration techniques, crossing the midline of the body to synchronize the left and right hemispheres of the brain.
Wow, so it actually changes the brain state?
Yes, allowing the practitioner to quickly overwrite self-limiting beliefs at the subconscious level, clearing the psychological resistance so the physical sculpting can actually work.
What about Bowen therapy? How does that integrate?
Bowen therapy addresses the physical hardware. It involves very specific, gentle rolling movements performed by a practitioner over precise muscles, tendons, and nerve bundles.
Almost like a specialized massage?
Sort of, but it's very targeted. These rolling moves stimulate the Golgi tendon organs and spindle fibers, sending a neurological reset signal to the brain to release deep fascial tension.
Oh, I see.
So if a client's posture is so locked up that the 5 diaphragms cannot open, Bowen therapy physically releases that fascial grip, creating the physical space necessary for the quantum touch energy to flow freely.
And what if the issue is purely emotional? The text mentions the emotion code.
The emotion code is based on the premise that intense emotions are not just fleeting feelings, but actual spheres of energy that can become physically trapped in the body's organs and tissues.
Causing localized pain and dysfunction?
Exactly. It uses kinesiology, or muscle testing, to communicate with the subconscious and identify this specific trapped emotion. Say, a trapped feeling of shame from 10 years ago lodged in the belly.
And then what?
The practitioner then uses intention and a magnetic field to clear that specific energetic disruption.
It's a beautifully interwoven safety net. By offering tools that target the subconscious mind via Psych-K, the fascial network via Bowen therapy, the emotional resonance via the emotion code, and the physical blueprint via quantum body sculpting, the Academy treats the human form holistically.
They stubbornly refuse to treat the body as a collection of isolated mechanical parts.
Which represents a much-needed paradigm shift away from the extreme fragmentation of modern allopathic medicine.
Where you see a different specialist for every body part, and absolutely none of them ask you about your emotional state or your fascial tension.
Exactly. The Wishing Well Academy treats the entire human experience, mind, emotion, energy, and tissue as one seamless, interconnected web.
It really is a profound way to look at healing.
Let's take a deep breath and zoom out to summarize the incredible arc of the material we've covered today. We started by looking directly at a truly devastating epidemic, the reality that the vast majority of us, regardless of our actual size, health, or fitness level, are at war with the shape of our own bodies.
We examined how the traditional yang solutions, the punishing caloric deficits, the grueling workouts, and the clinical coldness of the scalpel fail to address the root cause.
They completely ignore the internal tapes, the stored trauma, and the fascial tension that actually dictate our physical form.
And then we explore the radical, science-backed alternative, which is quantum body sculpting. We broke down the mechanics of shifting into receptive yin energy.
We explored how tapping into life force energy, which biophysically translates to the parasympathetic, oxytocin-rich frequency of love, can alter our morphogenetic blueprint.
By using meditative breathing to unlock the 5 diaphragms and utilizing clear intention through the art of allowing, we bypass resistance entirely.
From the interoceptive sweeping of heart energy to the biomechanical stability of sacral anchoring, it is a practice of profound, autonomous self-empowerment.
It is the ultimate manifestation of allowing. By completely removing biological and emotional resistance, rather than applying aggressive force, we invite the tissues of the body back to their original, natural state of balance.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to speak directly to you, the listener. Think back to the very beginning of our conversation. Recall that deeply personal number you assigned yourself between 1 and 10.
Your rating of how much genuine respect and love you hold for the person staring back at you in the mirror.
Hold that specific number in your mind right now. Notice how it feels in your body.
Yeah, just feel it for a second.
Now, I want to challenge you to consider something entirely different. What might that number be if you stopped treating your body like an enemy combatant that needs to be conquered, or a defective machine that needs to be hacked apart?
What would that number be if you approached your physical form with a beginner's mind, armed not with a scalpel, but with pure, unadulterated biological compassion?
Adopting that framework changes the entire landscape of self-perception.
It does. And it leaves us with a lingering, deeply provocative question to explore long after this discussion ends.
Right.
If our physical forms are, as QBSC and modern biophysics suggest, constantly being shaped and molded by our internal narratives, our brainwaves, and our stored fascial tensions, what happens when we completely stop fighting ourselves?
What would your body look like right now if it was sculpted purely by love?